Hi, I'm Jim Gordon in the offices of the Richmond Sentinel. There is an issue that has been in the headlines early in this new year. It involves cameras, stoplights, and intersections. Our next guest will break it all down for you on this edition of Richmond Stories. In January of 2026, BC's Information and Privacy Commissioner ordered the City of Richmond to remove high-resolution surveillance cameras at Granville Avenue and Minaroo Boulevard, citing violations of provincial privacy law. The city, which installed them for police support, is challenging this order, arguing it is out of touch. Recent updates include Commissioner Michael Harvey, who ruled the city lacked the legal authority to operate the high-resolution cameras for law enforcement, ordering their removal, deletion of data, and stoppage of collection. Mayor Malcolm Brodie has confirmed the city's intent to move forward with legal proceedings to contest the Privacy Commissioner's order. Our guest first joined us on Our City Tonight earlier this year to talk about an issue, explain it to our viewers. She's going to do the same thing with her first appearance here, the Richmond Sentinel, and bless her, she is on vacation right now, folks, in the Caribbean. And she's here to talk to us. She is a criminal defense attorney, lawyer, author, advocate. It is a wonderful pleasure to welcome and break up her vacation, I'm sorry to say. Kyla Lee, welcome to Richmond Stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great to have you. Off the top, I kind of gave our viewers an idea of what we were going to talk about today. And one of the things I love that you do, that you did on Our City Tonight, is you really can kind of plain speak it and explain the issue. I see both sides, just even talking in the office. I've talked to people about this issue. The common thing is always, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, why do I care? But let's start, Kyla, explain to us the pro-privacy advocacy group. And as I mentioned off the top, Commissioner Michael Harvey ruled the city lacked legal authority to operate. You pick it up from there.
Yes. So the sort of perspective behind the pro-privacy advocacy position is that people have the right to move about their daily lives in society free from state surveillance. I mean, we expect that in a free and democratic society, which is why we have privacy laws. When it came to this particular instance in Richmond, the city went too far, in part because it doesn't have a law enforcement mandate, but it was doing this for the purposes of carrying out law enforcement activities.
Right.
And in addition, there was inadequate notice given to people that they were actually being filmed at that location. People didn't have the opportunity to opt out of the filming, whereas with many data collection incidents where a corporation or a city is collecting your data, you do have the power to opt out.
Right.
There was no ability to sort of challenge the use to which the data was being put, and the material was being stored for a long period of time that could be accessed for all sorts of purposes. So it did amount to a significant intrusion.
Yeah, because I was reading, one of the things I read is from the privacy side of this debate was, I want to get this right, they highlighted that the cameras collected detailed personal information and that such surveillance could be, quote, corrosive to our social fabric. So basically what you're pointing out to our viewers then is that because we have not given our permission, that is the argument for that side, correct?
Yes, it's not just about not giving your permission, it's also being put on notice that this is going on.
Okay.
And we do expect some level of surveillance when we're out in public. For example, if you're driving, we go through intersections that are monitored by enforcement cameras, but those don't collect private information. They don't see inside the vehicle. It's not a high definition camera like the City of Richmond was using that can get very detailed facial information that could then be used, down the road for facial recognition. It can see who you're with when you go somewhere. And the cameras, although it wasn't turned on, did have audio recording capability that could have been turned on. So it can also capture private conversations that you wouldn't expect anybody to overhear.
Interesting. Okay, so then explain why the city, because that was one of the things I noticed was that the high res was used often in articles and stories I'd read online. Why, I mean, could the city say, okay, we'll just go back to the regular, standard cameras you see in elevators and street corners. Could they just do that to continue doing what they're doing?
They wouldn't be able to go back to any sort of standard cameras or something that is not so high resolution because the ruling essentially constrains their ability to collect personal information to assist law enforcement. Because the city does not have a law enforcement mandate, it's a municipality, it does not have the right under privacy laws in British Columbia to start obtaining personal information for the purposes of then providing it to the police on request.
Okay, well, unpack that a little more when you say about the city mandate. What should they do or what should they have done? And explain, lay it out for me like I'm 11, because I sense where you're going. But what is the mandate they should have done then?
Well, they should have approached the provincial government, who has, more power to oversee the actions of the RCMP and the municipal police forces, and asked the provincial government perhaps to put legislation in place that would authorize these cameras. Had that been done, it likely would have withstood scrutiny under the Privacy Act because it was done by legislation. There would also be notice to the public. Alternatively, if this were something that the police did under powers that already exist, police can get warrants for general surveillance and things like that. If the police had used existing powers in the criminal code to do this, then it could have been permissible as well. But the city's actions are constrained by a piece of legislation called the Community Charter, and the Community Charter does not permit them to engage in law enforcement.
Interesting. Okay, so that does that mean then the police would not have been consulted? Let's say in this. I mean, I see where the city's trying to go, from a sincere aspect. I get that in terms of they want to do this and this and this. I get that. This is a society we live in this day and age. But would the police not have been consulted on this?
The police were definitely involved.
Okay.
This was something they wanted because they wanted the ability to monitor some particular intersections due to complaints about, a rise in crime that was supposedly happening at that intersections, as well as because they're quite major intersections in Richmond. So, looking for people who are leaving areas, driving by at various times after criminal offenses have, allegedly been committed. The
Okay.
police having access to that information might ease their investigations. On the flip side, it also might result in the wrong person, an innocent person, being identified as a possible suspect and then having more intrusion into their life just because they were quite literally the wrong place at the wrong time.
Is this is this kind of story that we're seeing in the headlines? Is this becoming more and more and more commonplace?
It is more commonplace to see surveillance being done by municipalities and different levels of government, as well as, newer technology being used by police to collect data to be used for law enforcement. I mean, there's examples of it in the United States, for example, where there are agreements between police agencies and like Amazon for their Ring cameras and, different home surveillance companies to actually
Right.
just proactively provide information to police on request. So this is something that, we are slipping more and more into a state where we have fewer protections on our privacy.
And okay, now go to the other side here. You've walked us through the legalities of the situation. What if you were taking your expertise? What would you be doing to advise the city going forward? Because as I mentioned, Mayor Brodie has said that they're going to follow through with legal proceedings to fight this. What would your advice be to them then?
I think rather than fight the decision, which would require, at this stage, they would have to file a judicial review in BC Supreme Court. A judge would review the decision of the Privacy Commissioner to determine whether or not that decision was unreasonable. That's a very high bar to meet. I think their energy is better spent lobbying the provincial government to change the community charter to give them the power to do this, or alternatively, to lobby the provincial government to put the legislation in place to allow the province to do this and the RCMP to benefit from access to it. It would probably be more effective and ultimately produce a result faster than going the judicial review route.
Yeah, because this is something that could play out in the courts for like a number of years.
This could take years, and I would anticipate even if they were successful on judicial review, a couple things happen. If they're successful on judicial review, it goes back to the Privacy Commissioner for a new hearing. So the Privacy Commissioner could still decide the same outcome, just provide better reasons for it. And there would also likely be another level of appeal and potentially an appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada because this does have national implications in terms of it being such a new instance in Canadian law of a city engaging in this type of surveillance.
I really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through this and unpack this. This is an issue that is, as I said to you and you expanded on, is not going away. It's only going to become more and more and more common, obviously, as more and more technology becomes more and more part of our lives. I really appreciate taking the time on your vacation. Please get back outside and enjoy the weather. Safe travels home. And we will see you again on the Richmond Sentinel, and we'll also see you on Our City Tonight when we require your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Kyla Lee. She is a defense criminal attorney, author, and advocate and educator. And for the very moment, I think she's also a poolside cocktail enjoyer. So thank you, Kyla.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. More information, richmondsentinel.ca. Check all our information out in print and online. And of course, we will have the printed version of this in one of the upcoming editions. I'm Jim Gordon. Thank you for watching this edition of Richmond Stories.